You're up.
Hey, all my fantasy football friends. Welcome to the Multiple First Dynasty channel here on YouTube. This is Tony and Greg coming at you with our Week 5 breakdown of the NFL season. How you doing today, Mr. G?
Doing very well, Tony. Ready to break it down. And yourself?
Yeah, I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. I enjoyed that late football game last night, that Chiefs and Raiders, man. You can tell there's just a lot of heat between those two AFC West rivals, and boy, that made for some good football. A couple things made for some bad football, like the officiating was not what I like to see. I feel like officiating's been rough this season, man. What do you think? Like, it's been weird out there.
We have seen a couple of real bad calls. The call in the Atlanta Tampa game was terrible. But then again, we've seen soft roughing calls on Tom Brady for more like half of my life now, and I'm not that young.
True.
Yeah, so I don't know. Probably a little bit to that.
I just feel like there's so much contact, like between the receivers and DBs, and it's so arbitrary what gets called and what doesn't.
Oh yes,
and that's, I don't know. That's my big gripe right now with the officiating. I mean, yeah, the whatchamacallits, the roughing the passers were weird, but like, man, you just watch any game and like, there's just DBs grabbing receivers' hands, and sometimes they call it and sometimes they don't, and there's receivers pushing off, and sometimes they call it and sometimes they don't, and it's just really subjective and awkward. But I don't know, whatever.
Yes, and there's holding on every every pass snap, and sometimes they call it and sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
But like, it's important for the officiating to not be seen. How about that?
True. What was your big takeaway? What was your number one reaction from Week 5 action?
Kenneth Walker season. Kenneth Walker season. Yep. I'm going to say this right now. If Kenneth Walker is available in your redrafts, drop 100% of your fab on it.
Oh yeah.
Like, if you can get Kenneth Walker, the offense, he's going to get all the run. He was already catching more passes than Rashad Penny. And Penny was okay splitting work with Walker and catching no passes. Walker could be really, really good. Drop all your fab on it, and if you have to make $0 bids for the rest of the year, that's worth it. That's
he's like a league-winning type player coming off the waiver wire. I mean, the upside's tremendous, and the offense as a whole is playing lights out. So it's like there's a lot more ceiling here than was than we thought 6 weeks ago with Kenneth Walker. He could be great.
And we're going to get into Breece Hall later down in the show, but like, I think the rookies coming on, here's another one who is ready to turn into a fantasy, like a real star, right? So people who did not like this draft class, you're going to end up getting a lot of value as rookies out of this class that everyone hated. Just, and Kenneth Walker is going to be really fun, I think. Seahawks are a story altogether. Did you have any other thoughts about this week?
Yeah, from having watched 5 weeks of football across the league, it's I think the smart betting money needs to be on the Eagles and Bills to be the two Super Bowl teams. I mean, I think they've really established themselves as being head of the pack in each of their respective divisions. I mean, maybe the Chiefs are in the AFC in the same class as the Bills, but there's no one in the NFC that's doing what the Eagles are doing on both offense and defense right now. There's not a team in the NFC that can keep up with them, in my opinion. Maybe the Niners, maybe.
I listen. Yeah. When the Bucs get their wide receivers all the way right, that's the team to me that has both sides of the ball. Like, I'm not betting against Tom Brady in one game, even if it's in Philly right now.
Yeah, that's fair. I made a pact with myself like 5 years ago to never bet against Tom Brady again. So
So that's. But I agree with you that they are favorites. I just I think you named some teams that they're not runaway favorites. I do think Baltimore has is going to have a lot to say about things by the time the season's over.
Yeah.
AFC is very deep. I think the Chargers, if they get 100% Herbert, he hasn't been right since the rib injury. They're going to contend. But yeah, I agree with you that those two teams look like the best teams in the NFL. NFC looks, again, pretty soft. Saw a funny stat about the Eagles that they were the number one scoring team in the second quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you combine the first quarter and the second half, they were the lowest scoring team in the league.
Yeah.
Like they'd done so much damage in the second quarter that they were not playing much in the second half. They were not scoring much in the second half. So, there are some holes to be had. Hey, so how about our show league, the Dynasty 24/7 365 league? So we, as we discussed last week, we sold off some of our key assets. Saquon Barkley, Miles Sanders, brought in some guys, decided to give up on the season. And then we went out and won a game unexpectedly. But that's okay. We're happy to take it. We're happy to see our guys play well. Josh Allen put up a monster game, and even though we're selling off running backs and getting set for next season with our massive load of picks, we're not going to start a bad lineup and tank the season. So Josh Allen stays in the lineup with Justin Fields or Kenny Pickett in the Superflex. We're not going to start Fields and Pickett and just bench Allen to tank out for picks. That's not good sportsmanship. So that's where we are. 1-4, ready to pack it in. But we got some great performances out of George Pickens. Brandon Ayuk put up some good receptions, converted a 2-point conversion. Pretty pleased with the direction of our team. One guy I wanted to bring up, Darius Slayton, to me, has a pretty good opportunity to emerge as the guy in New York.
Yep. And
I think we should definitely be keeping an eye on him across your leagues.
Yeah, there's a lot of good waiver wire targets this year, this week, even in Dynasty. I mean, you have like the two backup running backs for Seattle are interesting. The Baker situation means any of those Panthers quarterbacks could come off the wire and be at least worth a stash. But Darius Slayton definitely among them. I mean, according to Sleeper right now, Darius Slayton's only owned in 23% of leagues. In my personal opinion, Darius Slayton is the most talented pass catcher on the Giants roster, with the exception of maybe Kadarius Toney, who the team doesn't really seem to like for whatever reason. Maybe you could say Shepard is, but he's done for the season, so it doesn't really matter. I
have no idea what Wan'Dale Robinson is. We have no idea what Wan'Dale Robinson is. We haven't seen him, but Slayton is there, and he's clearly a much better player than Richie James or David Sills, who've been getting. So I don't know what this was all about, but I have to think he's not going to lose his snaps back to those two guys, right?
Yeah, I agree with you. He should be established as a regular starter in this offense at this point, but it's hard to say, and it's also hard to argue with whatever Daboll wants to do because they've had so much success. So it's like, I don't know. And Saquon Barkley's the most talented pass catcher on this team, of course. But I guess at the wide receiver position, I've always liked Slayton. That's all I'm getting at. I'm excited.
I think he's a good player. And the other thing about Slayton, all right, he is in a walk year, right? So this is a guy who has a real possibility, I think, to latch on somewhere as a 70% snap share guy, as like the wide receiver 3 in a good offense.
Yeah.
Right. And so he's one of these guys who I like to own before we get to free agency.
Sure. Yeah. So there's something I want to touch on. When we're talking about the philosophical element of like tanking versus not and all that. So we're going to tank this season out. I mean, air quotes, tank it out in our 24/7 league. We're going to start our best lineup. We're going to start Josh Allen every week. We're going to start all our best receivers every week. And we're going to make an effort for competitive sake. But so I just want to say, like, don't be benching your best players in leagues where you're trying to lose. But there is a route. If you're gonna, I want to show this to the viewers. If you're gonna enter the season and know that you're gonna lose at the beginning of the season, what you can do is take your best squad, your best, most elite young players, and put them in your taxi squad. Okay, and no one in your league, no commissioner, no one in your league can really gripe or complain about you benching good players, because no one can force you to activate from your taxi. So if you do plan on tanking, like I have in this league, where I have a bunch of picks, I have Kenneth Walker, Dameon Pierce, Mac Jones, and Trevor Lawrence in my taxi squad. So like, just load up your taxi with talent and then tank it out. And that's kind of the best way to. That's the best way to approach tanking when you actually are expected to tank. In the 24/7 league, we thought we could be competitive and make a push. It didn't go that way for us, but so we're just gonna play spoiler and try to beat some people. And we have 4 different teams 23 first, so there's a chance we could beat some teams whose first we own, maybe, and potentially increase the value of those picks for ourselves. Interesting.
Yeah, and so we almost certainly won't be taking anybody off of taxi. Yeah. Let's say if Jelani Woods or Kyle Phillips were to break out, but we thought about actually bringing Kyle Phillips up in week 2 and week 3 before he got hurt. But if we stumbled into another 2 wins here, we could have a different conversation, right? Like if I don't know if Jonathan Taylor was out a month and all of a sudden Deion Jackson gave us, you know what I mean? Like, yep. And some stuff happened, I'd be willing to pivot back. But at the moment, we're still selling and moving pieces, and I'm very happy to do that.
We'd have to get some real breaks in order to to pivot back into this, because we let Saquon and Sanders go.
We would have to get some ridiculous breaks, yes.
Yeah.
Well, Eli Mitchell would have to come back a little early.
Sure.
Jerick McKinnon would have to, who, by the way, all of a sudden outsnaps Pacheco again.
Yeah, what the heck? Yeah,
I know, right? Right, so like he would have to. So if you got an injury and it clarified, and he was getting a big touch share, like those are the kinds of things that would have to happen to replace Saquon, right? That to replace Saquon, then you get into the playoffs, anything can happen. McCaffrey could go down, and Foreman could get a huge share, right? Something like that would have to happen. But if that happened, I'd be happy to pivot back in the sense that we're not tanking here, right? Like we are just making decisions for next season, and if something falls in our lap, we'll make a go of it.
Yep. Map the plays, play the map. Moving on to our favorite segment here. So we're gonna do some buying high and some selling low, right? So me and Greg like to talk about players that we're buying who are on the rise, who you want to get in for that, and players who are falling, but we're gonna sell even at the discounted price, whatever, exit now on this player. So this is one of our favorite segments that we do. I'm going to start us off here. My buy high after 5 weeks of the NFL season is at the tight end position. I'm trying to get out there, and I'm trying to buy Dallas Goedert right now. Dallas Goedert, if I can find him on this list here, is part of one of the best offenses of football in the Philadelphia Eagles. I believe he can be had for a reasonable price, as you can paint the picture to his owners that there's a lot of mouths to feed there, and Jalen Hurts, stuff. If there's still some, question marks around him anymore. I don't know. But to an owner who's not paying attention, you could probably get Dallas Goedert off of them for reasonably cheap.
Absolutely.
The tight end position is putrid across the board, and what you have in Goedert is the guy who's the top 5 PPR tight end, who has gone for 60 or more receiving yards in 4 of his 5 games, has only 1 touchdown in the season, which is kind of a good thing here in the sense that he's been producing without having to score TDs. But this offense moves the ball up and down the field, and Goedert is a big reason for that. He's an incredibly talented tight end. He's only 27 years old. If you have the option to get in on the rising asset that is Dallas Goedert right now, you should be looking to do that.
Yeah, so 27 years old is an interesting age because I think at wide receiver, you're like, okay, this is probably as good as he's going to be. And then like, he may be the same good at 28 and 29,
Sure.
Right? And then at running back, you're like, he's probably not as good as he was at 25.
Yep.
But at tight end, he might be better at 28 and 29 than at 27. So like, there's some continued upside here. I'm not going to be able to get any Dallas Goedert. Hey, shout out to my brother Matt, who's an Eagles fan and has Dallas Goedert in like all the leagues that I'm in.
He's great. I love Goedert. Oh yeah.
So I'm not going to be able to get Dallas at pretty much anywhere. Yeah. But here's what I love: if you've got linebackers spying the quarterback, and you've got safeties helping over the top on 2 stud wide receivers, the tight end is getting man coverage from someone who can't cover Dallas Goedert. And I really, really like this pick, Tony. I don't know why I didn't take it from you in previous weeks. It's a great name.
Yeah, it's the only real question is how much room is there to grow from being the top 6 tight end? Can he break into like an Andrews-esque tier? And I don't know. That remains to be seen. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, he definitely can. That's some rarefied air up there. But there's very real consistency for Dallas Goedert. He's probably he probably going to be a top 7 or 8 option every week for the rest of the season. And that's at the tight end position. That's gold. It's really nice.
He also has like 6 for 80 and 2 upside. Any given week.
He's got yards, man. He gets down the
right.
field. Yeah,
and he can contribute when he can contribute when he's not scoring, but he also has like multiple touchdown game upside, right? He only has 1 touchdown so far, but there's going to be a 2 touchdown and a lot of yards game where he's the tight end 1 on the week and he wins you your matchup by, winning that position by 20 points, right? So he's a guy to buy. I like it very much. Okay. I played around with a lot of names for my buy high. And the name I want to give you is Breece Hall.
Ooh, Breece Hall.
And that's high. I understand. But like if you were a contending team and if you were like a high-end contending team, real championship guy, but you had somebody else's very like high first round pick, I would send that across for Breece Hall in a heartbeat. If I were a contending team and had my first round pick next year, I would send it across with stuff for Breece Hall. I would consider sending my 23 and 20. If I was a really good team, I'm happy to maybe send 2 first, but like 23 and 24. And I know that's a lot, but Breece Hall, you would not be able to buy Breece Hall if he had gotten in on those 2 plays where he came down at the 1 yard line.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. Like if he had this game plus those 2 extra touchdowns and was sitting as the running back, I don't know what that would make him.
He'd jump up like 2 or 3 slots, I think.
It'd be the running back
like 6,
4 or 5.
Yeah.
So if he's there, you couldn't get a hold of him. So take advantage and get a hold of him now. If he's going to make a really big difference. Now, if you're absolutely loaded at running back, then maybe this isn't the right move for you. If you're rebuilding, this is not the right move for you. But if you are if you are contending and you have your future pick, I'm all in on that move. It would put him, so it would actually only move him up one spot from 8th to 7th in PPR if he had gotten it in those 2 touchdowns, but it would put him right behind 4th, 5th, 6th. So he's moving into elite territory so far total on the season, and he is going to get higher touch share going forward this season. He has really big ceiling. All right, so who's your sell low?
I like the Breece pick. Yeah, I like the Breece pick. He's hard to get, man. He's hard to pry away from his owners in Dynasty just because people like him so much.
If he's on a non-contending team, though, if he's on a non-contending team and you're a contending team who starts the bid with a 2023 first, I think you can get there.
I think so too. I think it's worth at least poking that lower end team on Breece and see what they would take for him.
If he's on a contending team, you're not going to get it.
No, correct.
But if he's on a non-contending team and you can start with that big pick, I'd go do that.
All right, so my sell low, the selling on a downtrending player is a sell on someone who a lot of the community thinks is a very safe player. And a player who I own in most of my leagues. If you're one of my league mates listening to this, you probably look at my roster and maybe see that I own this player, but I'm willing to let him go right now, and that is A.J. Dillon for the Green Bay Packers. Like I said, I think a lot of the community viewed him as really, really safe last few weeks, but it's been depressing as an A.J. Dillon owner. You're talking about a guy who doesn't really catch that many passes. Aaron Jones really does most of the receiving work in this offense. And Jones splits the carries with him also. So he's not getting like these, Derrick Henry-esque 25 carry games. His whole upside is in touchdowns, and all of that is kind of baked into this like positive game script that the Packers need to find themselves in, which they haven't so far this season for the most part. I don't really want A.J. Dillon right now, and I think there's a really nice window where you could sell A.J. Dillon straight across for a 23 first in most fantasy football leagues, most dynasty leagues. Like, if a contender is looking for an RB, like, I've been riding Rashod Penny and he's out now, I'm a contender. What am I going to do? I would send this guy your A.J. Dillon for his 23 first. That's something I'd send out, and it's a good chance that owner hits accept on it because, like I said, Dillon has this really good perception of being this safe asset, and his points have been pathetic. I mean, he's only gone for double-digit points once this season.
And it was week 1.
The Packers have nothing at receiver to open this offense up right now for him. I've been disappointed by Dillon, and pretty much all of the 23 tailback prospects, the big ones, are players I would rather own than Dillon right now.
So let's assume you can't get that 23 first.
Sure.
I think that's what sell low means here.
Yeah.
I think that's what sell low means here is you can't get that anymore. You could have gotten that in August.
Yeah.
Okay, so now people want to give you a 23 second. You're saying no. You're asking for the first. They're saying no. So you start to think, okay, I'm going to sell him low but go across to a player. What's a player you might go across to?
I would love to swap A.J. Dillon for George Pickens right now. Maybe that's too expensive also. Who's a player that I would move Dillon for as an anything, as a rebuilder or a contender? I'm not sure. If I could move him for like a 23-second, 24-second combo pack, that's probably something I'd put some real thought into.
Okay. I like that. Would you try to go get would you try to add something to A.J. Dillon to go get a different running back? If you were a contender, who would you add to A.J. Dillon to go get a different running back if you were a contender?
Yeah, if you're a contending team, you could probably put like that Breece Hall you're talking about. If I could put my 23 first, my late 23 first, because I'm one of the better teams in the league with my A.J. Dillon and go get Breece, I'd do that.
From a rebuilding team who thinks I'll have A.J. Dillon and Jahmyr Gibbs, maybe not or the next guy down from that.
Yeah, Zach Charbonnet or something.
I'll have A.J. Dillon and Zach Charbonnet instead of Breece Hall. Right, there you go. Yep. I like that very much. All right. My sell is Darren Waller.
Ooh, the Walrus.
I am out. I'm very out. So Darren Waller broke out in 2019. He had a big year. He had a big year in 2020. He had 7 games in 2020 where he received 10 plus targets. And in 2019 and 2020, he was, I believe, the tight end 2 and 4. Was that?
In this league, it says 3 and 2, but it changes from league to league. So yeah.
Yeah, depending on the format, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so he was a top 4 tight end back-to-back years, right?
Out of nowhere, yeah.
The value went through the roof. And then, remember last week, we talked briefly about how sometimes week 1, maybe it was 2 weeks ago we talked about this. Week 1 impressions can color our impression of a whole season. Well, week 1 last year, Darren Waller goes out and has 19 targets. And because that happens in week 1, he's sitting there as a season-long tight end top 2 for half the season, even though he's not really playing that well. Because that was from that point on, all of last season, after that 19 target opener, and including the beginning of this season, he's had double-digit targets once in 13 games.
Yeah,
we've seen Hunter Renfrow emerge. We've seen Devontae Adams come in, and Darren Waller is just not a target monster. If you can get tight end 5 to 6 value for him, you should. And I would love to pivot into David Njoku and something else if I could.
Yep.
Who are some other sneakier tight ends where you'd go? I would love to. I would pay something to pivot from Waller to Goedert. Like if the Goedert owner, you're buy high. If the Goedert owner is thinking, I want to cash in.
Yep.
And they're thinking, I want to buy low on Darren Waller, and you could send Waller and a 3rd round pick for Goedert, or Waller and Van Jefferson for Goedert. Right. That's a great pivot. I do not trust Darren Waller. He's hurt right now. Foster Moreau is a decent player.
Yeah.
Mac Hollins could continue to demand target share on top of Renfrow and Adams. I just don't think there's enough work for Darren Waller to give back that top 5 or 6 tight end cost, and he's 30 years old. So if you could pivot into even a medium tight end 1 who's 3-4 years younger, I think I'm doing that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I mean, Waller's a guy who, man, you might be able to send Waller for like a couple picks or something, and then just get like a Bellinger or a Likely or a Woods, one of these young tight ends that we're waiting on. That might be
but no. Assuming you could, but if you're contending,
that's not something you want to do.
If you're contending, you're not going and doing that, right? So, but you could go poke at Njoku and like there's Gerald Everett and a pick.
I like those propositions a lot,
right? If you're contending, and Waller's been your tight, Gerald Everett and a pick. I like that.
Would you trade Waller straight across for Freiermuth? Is that something you do? Yeah, I probably would too.
Right. So go around the league and start sending those things out, and hope you find somebody who thinks they're buying the dip on Waller and move on.
Yep. All right.
Okay. Man. Well, that was buy high, sell low.
Okay. Yeah, so let's touch on some of the bigger players this week, man. So one of the big guys who really shook up the scene, really made a big impact across all fantasy leagues, is the tight end formerly known as Taysom Hill. If you're in an ESPN league or Yahoo league or something, and you got blown out by Taysom Hill's 3 rushing touchdowns from the tight end position, you're probably not too happy with his tagging. What's up with Taysom Hill? What are you doing with him? How do you feel about Taysom right now?
So, okay. This is a dynasty show.
Yeah.
Right? So the problem with Taysom Hill is that all of his value comes from the missed tag.
Yes.
Right? Like if he's not catching any passes, how many targets does he have?
He's got 1 reception on 1 target this season, yeah.
For the season?
For 2 yards, yeah.
Okay, so like, is he going to keep the tight end tag all season? Is he going to keep the tight end tag beyond this season? if he gets a running back tag, he's worthless. You can't start him.
Yeah.
Even with the short yardage stuff, because unless he's going to become the Alvin Kamara partner in the backfield, right? But like, then again, if he becomes Alvin Kamara's partner, if he gets 9 carries a game and no targets, I can't imagine that he keeps that tag all.
Yeah, I mean, I think he will keep it all season, only because most of these leagues, these platforms, I should say, they tend to not change stuff midseason. Like when they said it at the beginning, like I haven't seen very much changing midseason on these things. Maybe in the offseason they adjust it, but I would be willing to say Taysom Hill probably maintains his tight end status across all major platforms for the remainder of the season. That's what I expect to happen, unfortunately. And with that in mind, I don't know what you think about this, but I think he's a top tight end play, a top 10 tight end play for at least the foreseeable future. There's only a handful of guys who I definitively want to play over him. Only the guaranteed target guys, the Goederts and the Kelseys and Andrews and Hockensons. Like that's really it, man. The upside that Taysom presents is.
See, but the thing about him, I'm so.
Like, it's tough, man. What do you do with him?
I would add him if I could for cheap, for very cheap, and put him on my bench and see what they do. Because I disagree with you. I actually think they will not keep him as a tight end all year. If he continues to get 9 rushing attempts a game and no targets, that will change. Because he's one of the players we've seen that change with.
Yeah.
When I believe there was a time, I don't remember exactly who it was, but there was somebody who got added who started playing some quarterback snaps, and I think it was Taysom.
Taysom got moved from tight end to quarterback, 2 years ago when he went for that stretch as a starter. He was tight end to start, and they moved him to a QB tag only.
And they moved him to a QB tag only. That's what it was, right? So I don't believe that they will keep him all season as this weird cheat code. But the other thing is, I don't know if I believe that he's going to continue to get 9 carries a game and 30% snap share.
Yeah.
Because
it's hard. You got to think that his production, warrants more playtime, right? So what do you do?
It does. And Latavius Murray, maybe in part, they probably should have cut Mark Ingram and kept Latavius Murray on the roster, because Mark Ingram looks kind of done.
Yeah.
And so Mark Ingram's snap share going away. But also Andy Dalton started the game.
Yes.
So is that what's going to happen when Jameis Winston comes back? I don't know. Or is he going to go back? Or is he going to go back to 3 or 4 carry? In which case, if you're sitting there in a full PPR with a half-point tight end premium, don't you want to play the guy who's going to get 3 to 4 catches for 20 yards every week than the guy who's going to get 3 to 4 carries, even if every 5th week he'll pop off for a 50-yard touchdown?
Yeah, I do, but there's so few tight ends that I could even bank on getting 3 or 4 catches. Yeah, unfortunately, in a 2 tight end start league, Taysom Hill might be my favorite tight end 2 to own right now.
I guess
just because he could blow up, man. He could explode.
And the other thing is, for sure, he's going to get, if this is his usage pattern, he becomes a running back who isn't worth very much at the end of the year.
For sure.
Right. So if you're a non-contending team who banked this asset, you want to sell it right now. But he is the tight end 7 in PPR. By the way, also he is the biggest difference between a PPR and a non-PPR league scoring value, right?
Sure, yeah.
If you're in any kind of non-PPR league, then
he's your tight end.
Then oh my gosh, yeah, you'll happily take 4 carries against 4 targets, but you're playing in a full PPR with a half-point tight end premium, as I know you and I do a lot. There's sort of a whole mess of I don't know, like Tyler Conklin's, who are I honestly probably going to outscore him by the end of the year. I think
we'll see. I mean, who knows? He only has to have one or two more games like this to be, a top 10 tight end on the season.
Yeah, I mean, kind of, but like also you want a little consistency, right? Like if you show me a player who's going to play as the tight end 6 on the year because he has 4 blow up games and goes for 2 points in most of the other weeks, that's like I'm not super sure I love doing that.
All right, we beat this up with Taysom. Speaking of tight end blow up games, I mean, did you have any games that you were winning by about 25 points flipped on their head because of
oh my gosh
Travis Kelce's monster performance last night?
Yes, yeah. Travis Kelce and then the Kelce Mahomes stack took some games that I thought I was just not even looking at, and then took them off the table. And then I had one game that that was just done, and then I won it. I was just no chance to hold on, and then I won it because Mahomes didn't do anything at the end of the game.
Yeah,
right. Like going into the fourth quarter, I was drawing completely dead, and then that and then it turned. By the way,
Josh wins it.
Yeah. Josh Jacobs, by the way, was an alternate buy high for me.
Jacobs is a stud, man. He's such a good running back. I've always really liked Josh Jacobs, and the reports of his demise have been greatly outplayed or overstated. Jacobs is going to contribute to some championship teams this season, I think.
Yeah. I completely agree to that. I completely agree with that. One other thought. We talked about Waller going down in your 2 tight end leagues or tight end premium leagues. Go add to Foster Moreau if he's around because he's pretty usable as a tight end 2 when Waller misses. We've seen, and he's going into a free agency year, and I could totally see him getting a Gerald Everett sized contract or a Tyler Conklin sized contract to go be a starter, and then you got a tight end 2 for next to nothing. So throw that out there. Hey, Gabe Davis, buy, sell, hold.
Buy, sell, hold. I sold a share a few weeks ago. I traded Gabe Davis straight across for Josh Jacobs after week 2 in the league.
Forget after this week. I'm talking about what do you do with this blow up?
Entering this week, I sold Gabe Davis for a 23 first and second pair, which I love.
That's amazing.
And I would do that. I would definitely sell him for that.
Well, of course, yes. Yeah. Okay. So all right. So now you would try to would you take a contending 23 first for Gabe Davis
straight across? That's a good question.
If you were a rebuilding team,
I probably would. Yeah, the volatility's too much, and rebuilders need running backs and quarterbacks. That's what rebuilders need, and that's what those first round picks give you. So I would probably take that. Yeah. What would you do?
Yeah, I think so. Gabe Davis is a weird spot. I think he's real safe in that he's the wide receiver 2 in one of the best offenses for the best quarterback, and that quarterback clearly really likes him.
Yeah. And
he plays all the snaps, and he's a big play machine. But he doesn't feel safe.
No.
Either week he feels super safe for the rest of the season on average.
Yeah.
But he feels neither safe week to week nor safe year to year.
He's like my favorite wide receiver 3. If you're going into the game and Gabe Davis is your wide receiver 3, you're 3 wide leagues, that's good. I love that. If I have 2 nice 1 and 2, whatever, CeeDee Lamb and Cooper Kupp or something, and then Davis is my 3, I'm feeling powerful, But if Davis is your 1, you got problems for sure.
All right, Geno Smith, got to talk about it.
Probably you think it's the most surprising single player in the league right now, of through 5 weeks, Geno Smith's performance.
Probably.
Yeah, I think so too. At least for
Probably the
fantasy.
story of the year.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe for anything.
Yeah, probably for anything. Yep.
Maybe for anything. But Brian Robinson may get into this conversation in a month, but Geno Smith for sure right now is the most remarkable story of the year. He's been great.
He's been great.
He's been absolutely wonderful.
He's been not good. He's been great. Yeah.
And he's passed the eye test. So I actually traded him. I owned a couple of shares of him on like rebuilding teams. And I just want to, note the message that you add when you are a rebuilding team, you add all the guys who might be a starting quarterback.
Oh yeah.
Just in case. Right. And sometimes it's like you added it's Mr. Trubisky and you try to sell it, nobody wants it, and then he loses the job and it was worth nothing.
Yep.
And sometimes it turns into Geno Smith and you can really sell it. I just sold Geno Smith and Tyler Algier for a Javonte Williams share this weekend.
So to restate that, Greg sold Tyler Algier and Geno. Tyler Algier, Atlanta Falcons rookie tailback, for Javonte Williams, the injured Broncos running back. That's a 2-for-1 trade he made to bring in Javonte, and I love it. I really like that trade to bring in Javonte a lot, especially if you're not needing Geno. Algier's sweet, but who knows what he's going to be, and that's a pretty good buy low opportunity on Javonte Williams, I think.
I think I bought all of the dip there, and I think
you did.
Even though I don't love the injury, honestly, I'm really sketched about the injury. I feel like I will definitely, for Shorzy, have an opportunity between now and opening day to sell Javonte for more than that.
Yeah, I mean, put yourself in the mindset 2 months ago of what that trade is. It's like around 25 startup pick in Superflex plus a late second round rookie in exchange for a top 20 pick in a startup draft.
All right. So in this case, in this case, it was a round 27 startup pick.
Yep.
Okay, and it was a 3-round rookie draft.
Yep.
And Algier went all the way through undrafted.
Nice.
And I bought him for 11% of FAB.
Yep. And you traded it for Javonte, who someone probably used
208.
Yeah, top 20 startup pick. Yep. Awesome.
It was pretty great. I dropped. Now that was an interesting opportunity. I have the 5 firsts and 7 seconds in this one. This is one of those where I played the game, right? I played the multiple first strategy, drop down. But I loved the fact that it was only a 3-round rookie draft, and I spent almost all of my FAB. Mm-hmm. And I ended up with guys like Brian Robinson and Tyler Algier and Daniel Bellinger, and I bought the whole 4th round, and I don't have any FAB for the year, and that's okay. But that was a great way to start off one of these, dump out the first year. My team is so awful. I'm going to be starting Deontay Foreman and Sony Michel the rest of the year. It's pretty bad.
Yeah, I made a trade this week.
Tell me your trade.
Yeah. So we talked about A.J. Dillon a little bit. I did sell him in a league. In a league where I'm contending, I sold A.J. Dillon and Christian Watson and a later 23 first, definitely a playoff contenders 23 first, in exchange for Jonathan Taylor, the man, the myth, the legend himself, Jonathan Taylor. So it's a Dillon, Christian Watson, and 23 first later for JT. What you think?
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. That's it is a lot, but it's like you have to get there for Watson and Dillon in a way. You have to sort of value Watson and Dillon at the top of their value range, and really sort of max out the value of that late 23 first in your mind to make up for the value of JT. I'm just taking JT. I'm not worried. People panic on great players. 3 years from now, you're still going to be playing JT. JT is the kind of guy I might just acquire and decide I'm not going to sell him low. I'm going to let this guy just his value die on my roster in 6 years.
Yep.
And I will be happy to have paid these 3 pieces for the next 6-7 years of production, whatever that is.
Yep.
And then I'll cut him. He'll end up on the waiver wire when he's looking for a new franchise at 29, right?
Yeah, the pick side of that trade, the 3 side of that trade has to do so much to make this even or even inverse for me. Like that pick needs to become something really good. That needs to be like a Devonta Smith or a Justin Jefferson, and Watson really has to like the 2 Packers have to do a lot. Taylor
one of the 2 players has to hit.
Yeah.
One of the 2 players has to hit.
Like hit, yeah, like big time hit, and
right.
Yeah.
I mean, Dylan could tank out, and if Watson ends up being the number 1 Adams replacement guy, then that could, and then the pick hits. That could be. He has to hit on 2 of those 3 pieces.
Yep. Yeah, good said. What else is happening around the league this week? I want to talk about Carson Wentz a little bit. Carson Wentz is currently the quarterback, the quarterback 8 on the season, something like that. Quarterback 10 overall, quarterback 9. He didn't look pretty at the end of the game, but I just want to point out that Carson Wentz has still been balling out for fantasy with a crap ton of yards and touchdowns and, some interceptions, but it's fine. And just kind of want to take a little bit of a victory lap with Carson Wentz because I was saying he was a pretty good buy low this past draft season, and so far he's been producing.
I don't know that they're going to buy a quarterback next year. They might.
Know that either, yeah.
They might, but I kind of think the NFC is soft. They're going to play. I think the Giants are a little bit not real. I think that there are some opportunities for them to get back to get out of the top 8 picks. And then if they're at the 9, 10, 11, 12, the top 3 quarterbacks probably gone.
Yeah.
And they may decide to just keep rolling with Wentz. Like moving on from Carson Wentz was not a good decision for Indianapolis. It was a good decision for Philadelphia, but that's because of the replacement plan. So I don't know whether Washington is going to have an opportunity to replace Wentz. And I think he's a pretty good, I think he's the 20th best quarterback on the planet. And nobody's ever real happy when that's your starting quarterback.
Yeah.
But there are 32 teams, right? So
yeah.
Somebody's got, yeah, right. And and he puts up. He's better at fantasy than he is at real life. I think at times.
True. That's well said for Carson Wentz. The best way to put it.
But he's good enough at real life that he probably keeps a job for a while. Somebody always needs him. He's always better than what somebody else has.
So what's on your mind, man? This I know something's been in your brain that you wanted to bring forward to our listeners here. What's going on, brother?
Oh, well, so I just wanted to do a little review of a dispersal draft I went and did during the off season. Dispersals are when you get multiple orphans in the same league, and maybe one of them is real bad. For example, you take all the assets and put them in a hopper, put them in a draft pool, and you have all the new owners come in and draft from that pool. So I did this dispersal draft in a league, and what was kind of neat about it, I've seen this in startups too, where you it was a draft where you could draft other people's 22 and 23 draft picks, right?
That's pretty interesting, yeah.
So I've seen startups done this way too. You can or in 2022, you knew exactly what the picks were, right? Like the picks were in the dispersal pool, and that's pretty standard, right? But you could draft other teams' future ones, and the reason it was done this way is because one of the teams had traded away its future pick, right? So you had to put all of the picks into the basket, right? And so I ended up with instead of taking my own pick back, I ended up betting on which teams were going to be bad by who was taking 22 draft picks. And I'm going to come out of this. I'm 4-1. I'm a soft 4-1, but still 4-1. And I'm holding 423 first, including the 3 lowest scoring teams. But I don't have my own pick, right? I'm going to the playoffs. I don't have my own pick. I have other people's picks that are all super high. So I'm going to be looking in years going forward or like next offseason to be maybe playing in startups or dispersals where you can judge by the way other teams are drafting whether you want their picks in the future. And then some of these other owners maybe made a mistake. They were deciding to draft young instead of good, but then they left their own draft picks out there on the board.
Yeah. Yep.
And so anyway, I just think that's
I understand it. Yep.
And I caught him on the turn too. Like that was the other thing. There were 6 teams there, and so I caught him on the turn where I'm like, oh, I'll take both of yours, and then everybody kind of figured out what was going on, but it was too late.
Yeah, it almost has like a Debbie League feel to it a little bit. That's pretty cool.
A little bit.
Yeah.
It was neat. Anything else? Hey, before we get out of here, let's chat about the Rams and everything that's wrong with them, and whether Matthew Stafford, who's on pace for 17 touchdowns and 34 turnovers this year.
Yeah.
What are you doing with that? What is Allen Robinson? What can you do with Allen Robinson? Cam Akers is like, what is wrong here?
Allen Robinson's dead for fantasy. I mean, for all intents and purposes, until he proves otherwise, he's dead. You can't start him. You can't trade him.
Can you cut him
in redraft? I'd be perfectly comfortable cutting him.
Oh yeah, but no. Can you cut him in a dynasty, dynasty?
Yeah, you can. I mean, it's definitely a case of what you're picking up to replace him with. But if I have a 10-team bench dynasty league, I'm probably perfectly willing to cut Allen Robinson at this point. He's cooked. Stafford himself, the man. I have to think that McVay is going to sort this out for him, and he's not going to be this bad all season. I hope. But you look at the schedule. I mean, you see San Francisco, Tampa Bay, New Orleans, Kansas City, Green Bay, Denver. Like, these are tougher defenses ahead of him. About half his games in front of him look pretty challenging. This week 17 championship week at Chargers. I mean, maybe that's some kind of cool shootout. But yeah, what do you do with Matthew Stafford? I'm probably selling if I could pivot into a different quarterback. If I could get Geno plus some stuff and let go of Stafford, I'm pretty willing to do that right now.
Ooh, I don't believe in that. I don't believe Geno long enough term. I mean, Geno's a lovely story, but
it's just for the season. I mean, it's just got to get you through this season.
Yeah, but Matt Stafford is a 34-year-old Super Bowl champion who might have 5 years of he's not. Yeah, he's clearly not healthy. I don't think you can give away that cheap. I've had people try to, in various leagues, get me to sell way too low on Stafford and Russ.
Yeah.
And 2 injured quarterbacks in their early 30s.
Yeah, I've got a lot of low balls on Russ, too. Yeah.
I'm not willing to do that.
Yeah.
I'm actually really going to pin a lot of hope on their game against Carolina this week. I feel like Carolina is going to give them some chances to play some short fields.
Yeah.
And I think I'm putting him back in my starting lineup. I benched him last week for Zach Wilson. I don't love Zach Wilson's matchup against Green Bay on the road. Green Bay has a very good defense. So I think I'm going to give Stafford another try here. But I am pretty scared. They have the bye after Carolina. I'm kind of comfortable letting them figure it out through a bye. They've got a pretty soft second half, to be honest. Do you think Cam Akers? What do you make of Cam Akers getting all of the running back carries there? Darrell Henderson had no carries.
Yeah.
5 targets.
I think I just don't want to start a Rams running back till one of them establishes themselves as being the guy. I just don't want to play either of them. Just don't want to risk it. I didn't watch much of the Rams game. I don't know how Akers looked with his carries. I mean, just box score watching, it says 13 for 33, so that's rough. And then he didn't catch any passes, so yeah.
I mean, he was, yeah, and I mean, snap share, Henderson played 57% of the snaps, but they were like behind all day and were throwing all day. I don't know, man. I really think it's offensive line related.
It is. It's all offensive line, and that's why it's going to be tough to play one of these guys. You know?
I think you might have a buy low on Cam Akers. So Cam Akers played 31% of snaps, but had 13 carries and 1 target.
Sure.
And Darrell Henderson played 57% of snaps, had no carries and 5 targets. So like clearly that's a pass block. That's pass blocking.
Yeah.
And receiving. Like I just have to believe that they're telling us that they think Cam Akers is their best running back if they can ever get this offense right. That isn't that what you're reading that mess?
Yeah, it is. It is, but like I don't really want either of them right now until one of them does something. I mean, there is a buy low window on Akers. You can get him for probably pretty cheap, but does he recover value from that point? Is the question, and I'm pretty indifferent. I don't think I own Cam Akers in a single dynasty league. In fact, I know I don't. And I'm not out there aggressively pursuing him.
Okay.
There's just no reason to. I don't think. I mean, the offensive line's been bad. He hasn't done anything. It's just.
I just think he might be real cheap. Yeah, no, I get it. Let
me ask you this: who would you rather have in your dynasty roster, Ben Scott Rodak or Mac Hollins?
Mac Hollins.
You think so?
Yeah, over Skowronek. Yeah.
Okay.
I think Skowronek will lose his work to Van Jefferson.
Yeah, he could
at some point.
He's just being more and more involved every week. Skowronek is.
Well, what did he do this week?
8 of 6 for 41. Played 88% of snaps.
But okay, so 88% of snaps he's played 85 to 88% of snaps every week.
Yep.
And that's his most targets. It's not his most yards. But like I just feel like this is they don't have enough wide receivers, right? Allen Robinson turned out to not be able to play. And Van Jefferson isn't healthy and it's a disaster.
Yeah.
Gosh. Allen Robinson had 5 targets, 3 receptions for 12 yards after 2 receptions for 7 yards. Like this, it's unbelievable. He's averaging at less than 9 yards a reception and less than 5 yards a target. And it's unbelievable how bad he is right now. And Tutu Atwell had more yards than Ben Skowronek on 1 catch for 54 yards on 14% snaps, right? They're desperate for something that works. I just don't think Skowronek has any future. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Whereas Mac Hollins, I could imagine the Raiders saying, we like Devontae Adams, Mac Hollins, and Hunter Renfrow as our 3 receivers next year.
Okay. Yeah, that makes
sense. I can't imagine Skowronek being in that.
Survives the offseason. Skowronek does. Yeah.
As a top 3, I can't imagine him survives 2. Like it's going to be OBJ and Van Jefferson with Cup by week 13, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking OBJ does go back to the Rams, but
they're going to be desperate. They're going to pay him.
I think that's for a future show, though. Is there anything else on your mind today, brother? Before we wind this thing down?
Nope. I think I am mostly pretty good. Oh, Matt Rule. We got.
Oh yeah. I wanted to mention this. Yeah.
Hey guys, like and subscribe. It's been long. Like and subscribe. We're gonna stay around and talk about Matt Rule, but like and hit the button below, right? and then we'll talk after sign off, right?
Tell me about your bad beat on Monday Night Football from Kelsey and Mahomes. I want to hear about it, or Davante Adams even, because he went nuts too. But if you didn't know this about Matt Rule, he is getting a check in the mailbox every month for the next 4 years. A check that is written for $835,000 every month.
Amazing.
For 4 years. It's crazy. I'd rather be a coach than a player. That's insane. So,
Oh yes.
all right, we're gonna let you guys go.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, let you guys go.
Have a good night, friends.